Hey guys, Scott Slaughter here, Viral Marketing. So if you've been jumping in, I apologize. We've been running behind today. We were trying to wait for Jay and Monica and Dr. Brett, and then Ray was going to be jumping on as well. But I'm with Jim Brown here, who is nice enough to hop on, and we're waiting for the other guys. We're just going to chit chat and talk a little bit about what Jim's doing really to maintain his diet, health, his strategies on staying fit. So, Jim, welcome to the hangout with us. Give me a little bit of
Thanks.
your background on how you kind of got into all this and how it's kind of become a part of your life, I guess.
Well, the whole story is when I was about 13 years old, I met a guy who was a bodybuilder at the time, and I remember him making a huge impression on me and me thinking, I want to look like that guy. And, he was nice enough to give me some advice, and I think it was in the week or the week after I went down to Sears and bought my first DP weight set with my paper route money, literally, and started lifting weights. And so that continued. I competed.
They want to learn. Some people don't have an open mind when they come there. You need to, okay? Even for the short amount of time
We're
that I have,
live, Jay. So
open your mind and just let it come in.
mute out,
A
will
lot
you?
of times you don't get it right away. It takes a while. Cassius Marsh, Seattle Seahawks, Anthony Barr.
Hey,
They
Jay,
didn't get it right away.
mute your
Talk to
microphone.
them probably every other day. We're such good friends. All right, personal accomplishments. My favorite one, Mary.
Hold on.
Mary Ann Lee, got a beautiful wife, 2 children. You guys ever watched Pat?
All right, there we go. Sorry about that, Jim.
Hey, that's okay.
Cool.
Let me see. I competed in bodybuilding for 14 years straight. Did 23 contests. Took it as far as I think I could have taken it. That was the last contest was in 2002,
Okay.
and so 43 now. Still continuous lift. Lift as intensely and as hard as I can. I've obviously dropped some body weight, but that kind of brings it up. I trained hundreds of athletes when I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona. I managed and owned part of a nutrition store, and we worked with homeopathic doctors to MDs, designing protocols for their patients. Worked with a high altitude training center there, consulted on Olympic teams for professional athletes, amateur athletes, you name it. And so any way I can help anybody, you're always welcome to reach out and contact me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. So tell me a little bit about like how important is diet along with a consistent training program.
Well, it depends what your goals are, but I assume that most everybody will. I'll just lump everybody together and say most people want to be, a little bit more muscular and definitely leaner. And to do that, diet is almost more important. I would say more important than what you do in the gym. You go to your typical gym, not say Venice Beach, but your typical gym. There's lots of guys and girls in there that train really hard, but if you ask them and they were honest about it, they're not happy with the results, and it's because almost anybody can go in the gym and train hard and work out for an hour, but the other 23 hours of the day, when you're hungry all day and you're eating meat and vegetables and fish and rice, it's tough. And but that's key to having the physique that I would say most people are really striving for.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So I know today that we were going to cover a little bit of um, Jay had put in here, talk about a little bit about intermittent fasting and why bulletproof coffee diet is wrong. Do you know anything about that? And
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit.
perfect.
I think if you're gonna separate it, you have the IF guys that intermittent fast, of course. I haven't tried it, but I get it. I understand it. I see how it could be beneficial for losing body fat. But when you combine that with the bulletproof coffee diet, that's as soon as you drink the coffee with the butter in it, you're ingesting calories and you're not fasting anymore. So, if you compare the two or you want to contrast the two, really the bulletproof diet, you're taking in calories. It's just fat calories, but you're taking in calories instead of something like, I would recommend, 2 whole eggs, a couple egg whites, maybe some oatmeal, as a regular meal. So I guess it depends what your goals are. For average American that isn't working out or doesn't have like a athletic type physique in mind, you might be able to get away with replacing your first meal instead of a protein and fat and complex carbs. Just replace it with fat and try to not eat a whole meal until noon. I guess I could see how that would work for an average type person to lose body fat because you're kind of cutting calories. But if you're speaking about an athletic person or somebody who wants to maintain or gain muscle mass and lose body fat, I don't understand how that would be ideal. I would rather see somebody ingest protein and then, depending on the day of the diet, complex carbs and a little bit of fat, but definitely protein. So that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, that sounds just terrible. Not eating till noon. Oh my God.
Well, you're eating butter. You're eating butter until noon, really. So
Great.
but I mean the coffee tastes good. But and I'm a fan of butter. I'm a fan of real grass-fed cow butter. But I certainly wouldn't replace a meal with it.
Yeah, I tried doing it, man. I couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't. I didn't like the taste. That I had the MCT oil, and I did the whole recipe, that I saw online or whatever, and I bought all the stuff.
Right.
Got the organic coffee and the grass-fed butter, but yeah.
I found some cacao butter mixed with coconut oil, and that in coffee is great. And you get a little bit of fat with it. I'm not substituting a meal with it, but
right.
For energy and taste, that was a good combination.
Got it. So, tell me a little bit about what you're doing right now and what how you're trying to maintain yourself and what your diet consists of, because I think we talk about there's so many different strategies of things that you can implement, and it depends on the type of body you have and what you're trying to do, obviously, right? But I think people just want to know and hear, like, what's the day in the life for you when you're working out and when you're eating.
Well, I might be in a special situation from the average person. I'm not training to be the biggest and strongest I'll ever be. There's just no way that I could do that again. So I am kind of in a maintenance mode, or a mode where I'm fighting to keep what I have for as long as I can. And so I still train. I train the way that I did when I was a bodybuilder. I train. I do very few sets. I train to a positive failure, and my workout takes maybe 30 minutes, and I do it 4 times a week, and I'm out. So my strategy for my training strategy hasn't changed a lot. I do a higher rep to failure. So when I was trying to be, the biggest, strongest guy ever, my positive failures were closer to the 8 to 10 range on most things. Now that I'm 43 and I have to respect my body a little bit, and I have a lot of old injuries, I fail more in the 20 to 30 rep range, but it's still a failure. For diet.
Real quick, let me jump in there. So if you're going to the gym for 30 minutes 4 times a week, or lifting for 30 minutes 4 times a week, how many different lifts are you doing in that 30 minutes? I mean, how many do you try to fit in, like 3, 4, 5 different lifts, or?
Yeah, so typically I'll train chest, back, and shoulders. For chest, I'll do 2 different moves for the day, like a bench press and a fly. I'll do as many warm-ups as I need, say on bench. And then I'll do my 2 working sets where I go to positive failure on both of those sets. And I do it pretty fast. Then I'll jump over to flies, and I'll warm up maybe 1, maybe 2 sets for that. And then I'll go to the working set where, again, I'll fail, somewhere in the, depending on the day, 15 to 30 rep range. And then do another set of that. I'll move to back. Back, usually I'll do something like a row and a pullover or a pull-up type movement, or a deadlift and one of the two. And I do the same thing with those. I'll warm up and then do 2 sets to positive failure. Same with shoulders. I'll do like a side lateral and then I might do one set each of interior posterior, and then a press, some type of press where I warm up and then go to positive failure.
Got it. So you're doing it at a pretty good pace too. If you're getting in and out in 30 minutes. So I mean, how much time are you
Right.
resting in between reps or in between sets? Excuse me.
Not very much.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite saying is if you're not dry heaving as you're walking out of the gym, you didn't do it right. Uh, so I train as fast as I can, and you know, sometimes I play with that if I'm a little run down or I'm gonna, you know, try to add some weight. I'll play with that rest time a little bit.
Right.
Or if it's, you know, if I haven't done it in a while, I'll do that just to add a variable in there. And then I'll do a legs and arms day. Same type of training.
Got it. Cool. And then I know you're gonna. Before I ask you to go a little deeper on that, you're gonna jump into, you know, your daily diet or what you're trying to eat every day to complement, you know, your weightness training, right?
Right. So I'm kind of on cruise control. You know, I know what foods do what to my body pretty well, so I stick with, you know, the basics. Most of the day is meat and vegetables. I try to group most of my carbohydrates around my workout, where I'll do, say, 80% of the carbs that I eat for the day is either pre, intra, or post workout.
Mm.
And the rest of the day, carbs are pretty much just from vegetable sources.
Right. Got it. That
And
makes
then,
sense.
then you know, I use a protein powder supplement, of course. But stick with the basics. For carbs, I mainly stay to sweet potatoes and oatmeal. I'll throw in some brown rice every now and then. And then, you know, every kind of vegetable I can. Try to throw in fish, beef, chicken, mix it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So when's the best time you think to be doing your protein shake supplement? Is that like around your workout or is it first thing in the morning?
Well, I think it depends. You know, for workout, I like to eat a whole meal about an hour before, with some carbohydrates. Intra workout, I'll either do, you know, I'll do a protein with some sugar or carbohydrate, or, you know, some type of amino mixture, and then immediately afterwards I'll do a liquid protein, and usually oatmeal inside in the protein. For the rest of the day, I always carry a shaker bottle in my car, and I always carry food. And so, depending on what I'm doing, you know, sometimes if I'm in a hurry running out the door, I'll do a shake. If I have time, I'll make food before I leave, and then my next meal I try to stagger it if I can: whole food shake, whole food shake. But I think it really depends on the schedule. I do like protein intra and post workout.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the protein shake. Other than that, I don't think it really matters.
Got
It's
it.
really, you know, I would use it as a supplement if you can't eat whole food. You know.
And then, you know, I've heard so many different mixed things about how much protein you should be, you know, putting into your diet through shakes, or protein powder. Um, Generally, how much do you think, you know, this we'll keep the assumption that you're doing, you know, a good workout system of, you know, 4 days, 3-4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week, whatever. How much protein should you be adding into on top of your meals every day, you think?
Well, we can get real complicated, but I think just for a rule of thumb, you know, if you're getting 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body weight, that's a good starting point. And
So
then depending
lean
on,
body weight though, is that so?
well, if you're a 200-pound guy and you're at 20% body fat, you probably don't need to eat 200 grams of protein a day. It'd be more like 180 grams,
Right. Okay.
depending on the rest of your calories. But you can eat less protein and get away with it if you're eating carbs, and if you're not eating as many carbs, you have to eat more protein and fats. So you can make it a little complicated, but rule of thumb is, you know, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, lean
Got
body
it.
weight.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. That'd be hard to eat that much. So definitely need that.
Yeah, when you try to do it without no shakes, it's a lot of eating.
Be crushing some huge steaks to get all that protein.
Yeah. Yeah. there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of bodybuilders to get ultra lean, and I had done it in years past where you cut out the protein shakes, and if you're stuck, if you're stuck at a certain body weight, it seems to help. But again, it's you're losing the convenience factor, and it's a lot of food to prep and to carry around and to eat. But yeah, it's really, I mean, that's back to your first question. That's the hardest part of this whole deal. The food prep, the carrying it with you, because you can't really go out and eat. You can't stop at McDonald's and get a lean beef and vegetables. So
Yeah. You could, but it's probably not real.
yeah,
Or it's got something injected into it, right? Which you don't want
right,
to.
right.
So the other thing that we were going to talk about today, and some of the people that are watching probably would like to know about is carb cycling and how to do that right. And honestly, man, I don't know much about that. So all I know is I
Okay.
try not to eat carbs and or like good, like vegetables I know are good carbs, right? And crushing
Right.
a whole huge like sandwich and spaghetti at night isn't necessarily something you should be eating. So
Well, again, it depends what your goals are.
yeah.
But yeah, carb cycling. So I use carb cycling early on. I don't remember exactly how I came up with that or who influenced me to do that, but I've used that almost throughout my entire bodybuilding career, and all my athletes, everybody I've ever talked to, we do it. And so the way that I usually do it, I'll start out, day one or whatever, with as little carbohydrates as I can take. So I'm not going to cut out vegetables. So whatever carbs you get from vegetables for the day, and that's it. And I will go or recommend that the athlete goes as long as they can train. You'll start to get, typically me, it takes about 3 days to get in the pain zone where I'm really tired, I'm dragging, my workouts suffer, it's hard to do the cardio, I'm hungry, I'm grumpy. I'll stay in that suffering type of mode as long as I can, and that usually lasts, depending, how hard I'm training, 2, 3, 4 days, and then I'll start to add in carbohydrates again, and usually I'll do it by, at my body weight, now it's 270, so I do it at 30 grams at a time, and I'll add 30 a day, 30 a day, 30 a day, 30 a day until I get over 200, and then I'll go back to the as little carbohydrate as possible just from vegetables,
Okay,
and
so
cycle back
jump
and
in
forth.
real quick. When you're doing this carb cycle, what's the intention of this? What's your ultimate goal, and how many cycles do you end up doing?
Well, it depends. There's a couple different things. The way that or the reason why I do it, when I get below about 9% body fat and approach 7, my body really starts to slow down and hangs onto the fat. And either I have to up the intensity in cardio, or I have to cut calories, or I have to do something. Um, that's one component of it. So changing it up, kind of, I don't want to say tricking the body, but you're kind of tricking the body. Two, on the higher carbohydrate days, you're kind of stimulating your thyroid, because that'll get shut down if you're dieting intensely. You pass about the 10 or 12 week mark. And so a higher carbohydrate kind of keeps your thyroid, kind of keeps the metabolic fire burning. Three, it'll help reload your glycogen stores so you can recover a little bit. During that kind of hardcore diet mode, you're not really going to build muscle, but you want to maintain as much as you can. And so you want to, you reload your glycogen stores, you'll have better workouts. It'll be a little bit protein sparing for the days that you have a carbohydrate. And so I guess that versus being on a high carbohydrate diet, it's harder to cut body fat for most people. If you're on a zero carb diet, it's very hard to train and recover and do your cardio and burn the fat.
Yeah, and
Does
that's what I
that
was gonna
does
say
that
is
make
like,
sense?
yeah, absolutely, man. And I've noticed too, it's like when I've gone into where I've like completely cut out carbs and I'm trying to work out really hard at the same time, by the second or third day, I'm so exhausted, I'm mentally exhausted, and then on top of that, like most people, that are doing these types of things, it's in addition to the fact they have a day job, right? So it's like,
Right.
how do I mean, when you're trying to really, especially if you're trying to lose weight and cut carbs, how do you try to? I mean, what do you do to keep yourself up and like and really? I mean, I don't know. I
It's
know it's a tough solution. It's such a fine line with all this stuff, right? You
well,
know.
that's partially too why the carb cycling I think accomplishes quite a few things, and one of those is you get to
Anybody have anything
eat
for
some
me?
carbs.
Yes,
How
sir.
do you know?
Yeah. Okay. They backing
Yeah.
you? All right. So
Yeah, it's just
it accomplishes a couple things. It re-stimulates your thyroid, gets your hunger, kind of gives you a mental break because you get to eat carbs again. I never knew oatmeal could be so good until I couldn't have it for a week. You maintain a little bit more mental focus even on that first day. When you're depleted and you're in the pain zone for 3 or 4 days, and you just add 30 or 40 carbs in, it makes a huge difference. You can go to work, you think a little bit better, and I think it gives you a mental and a physical break. Plus, it seems to be more effective. It just works. It really does. It works.
All right, we're here. Sorry, we're here. We're here. We're here. Hear us, I think. Can you hear us, Scott?
Hey Jay, I hear you.
Yeah, we're here. Scott, can you hear me? Scott, I don't know if I'm unmuted. Scott, can you hear me? Fuck, I have no idea how to unmute this. No, you're not on mute because I use that. No, that's camera. All right, we're here. Sorry, we're here. We're here. We're here. Is there a delay or something? Scott, can you hear me? Can you hear us, Scott?
Hey Jay, I hear you.
Yeah, we're here. Scott, can you hear me? It's a delay or something. Scott. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know if I'm unmuted. Scott, can you hear me? No, you're not on mute because I use that. No, that's a camera. Oh, we're here. Sorry, we're here. We're here. We're here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, Jim, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool. I don't know what happened, man. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's okay.
Typical Google. Okay, we're here. Sorry about that.
Cool. Well, we were just getting on to bikini bodies, Jay, and I was just going to ask Jim what the best way is to get a bikini body in 6 weeks and my headset cut out. And yeah, so we were going into that, man. We've been kind of cycling through the questions, and we've been talking about Jim's background, and he's been really giving us some great advice, especially our viewers that have been on here. So.
Okay, cool. Well, just real quick, Dr. Brett's here now with me. He's eating. We just got done with our seminar. And Ray Kerr, U.S. Navy SEAL, who's right here on my left. And Monica is right behind me. Monica, wave.
Hello.
You need to put her up front, Jay. I don't know why she's in the background. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, Monica, come on up to the front.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo están?
No, you're good. You're good. We're all good.
Anytime I'm near Jay,
Sorry,
I'm good.
we're trying to make this work. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about waiting. So the question is, what's the fastest way to get a bikini body in 6 weeks? So I'll let Dr. Osborne answer that. Sorry, Jim, you had enough time.
I'm good with that.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Doc. How you doing? Hey,
Yeah,
guys.
what's up, buddy? Say hi to Ray, too. How you doing?
Hey, Ray. What's up, man?
Badass.
Anyway, so the answer to your question is a question. Actually, the question is posed to me quite often, and quite frankly, it's unrealistic. The bodybuilders, typically, as you're well aware of, they'll start out, and Jay and Monica probably can attest to this by virtue of their contest experience, as can Jim. Bodybuilders start out many months in advance in order to start their dieting, which is typically basically a ketogenic diet, a low insulin state diet, okay, which is going to shed fast body fat off of you extremely quickly. Here's the problem. The problem is that a lot of these guys want to maintain their bulk, okay, and by being in ketosis or some low insulin state, you're not only going to lose body fat, but you're going to lose muscle, okay, and this is why they try to do it. They sort of creep over months. I'm talking 4 or 5 months, very, very slowly downward, okay, in order to maximize the amount of muscle on their body at contest time and minimize the fat, okay, but if you're catabolic, okay, and you can't really control fat coming off of your body relative to muscle. It's a very, very difficult and very, very fine line that you have to ride, and the way that people typically do that is they will reduce their insulin signal by virtue of lowering the carbohydrate intake slowly, and they are going to be creating a low insulin state, and missed calories, if you will, because they're cutting out their carbohydrates, are going to be made up in the form of protein or good fats. Okay? The goal is to really ride this fine line between maintaining yourself in ketosis, but at the same time not generating too much of a caloric deficit, because if you do, you're going to end up becoming a smaller human, which is not the goal of a bodybuilder. So, as a circuitous way of answering your question, to lose, to sort of obtain a bikini body in 6 weeks, that's not even reasonable, okay, unless you're in deep shape. Now, could you lose a lot of fat and muscle during that time and lose a lot of weight as per the scale? Sure, you could. You just go on a diet that's a ketogenic diet, like an Atkins diet, if you wish, and the fat's going to come off of you, but you're going to be a smaller person because the muscle is going to come off of you as well. So, in order to become have this bikini body in 6 weeks, it's going to be quite difficult unless you're pretty shapely as is starting out, because you're not dealing with sort of that original that high quality substrate to begin with. Okay, so if you have some fat that you can do in 6 weeks, it can be done. Okay, but in order to get in order to take an obese individual and turn them into a model, it's not possible at all.
Depends on where you can.
It does.
Right.
Great answer, Doc. Thank you. Hey, real quick, people that are watching right now, up in the right corner, there's a Q&A application. Click the Q&A, ask live questions. We'll get them answered right now for you. Now, guys.
Pro right here. Ask the SEAL any questions.
I think a good question is to ask about Navy SEAL mindset, and he just gave an absolutely amazing lecture here in front of about 30 people about that. I think he has a lot to offer anybody watching from a mindset perspective.
Right.
Well, I have a question about that. Ray, how important do you think it is with anything that you're doing, whether it's a healthy diet, working out every day, trying to be your best version of you? How important is the mindset in all those things that are part of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I use the mindset according to like working out. It is the core, it's the fundamentals that you need to branch off and do anything. I use the mindset. Think of a house with foundation, right? You cannot build the house unless you have a solid foundation. Okay, the same mindset applies when we go through SEAL training. You know, they say 1% of the population makes it. Of that, there's an 83% attrition rate. Bottom line, what it is it's 80% mental, 10% physical, and 10% luck. You cannot do anything. Everything that I do and everything that I've become, and the SEALs, and people that are successful in what they do, it starts with the mindset. You know, the can-do attitude, the mental fortitude. You know, the desire. I call it desire and determination. The 2 Ds. I was explaining to them to the seminar I just gave that every morning when I get up, I try to think, my mindset is, what can I do better than I did last night? When I go to bed every night, I say to myself, what did I do? And I have a list of pros and cons. Because what I do is I go back and I analyze that because I constantly want to better myself. That's the mindset everybody needs to have in order to progress.
Scott, it's like how we've had discussions before in real estate, how what's more important, skills or mindset? And if you think about it, if you don't have the correct mindset, you have all the skills, then what do the skills matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of add this into what mindset do you take every day when you're trying to have a really healthy diet and maintain fitness and try to achieve your daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. You know, what's that frame of mind like when you have things that are adverse to influencing those decisions that you have? How do you block that and stay on the mindset that you're trying to achieve?
Well, through years of training with everything that I've been through, I learned how to disassociate the bad and only find the good. So, you know, you were talking about the diet. We actually had a conversation here where I started off on a diet recently and I only gave 80%. Well, guess what my results were? 80%. I then changed my mindset and said, hey, you know what? The only way that I'm going to get 100% output is if I give 100% input. And that's what I do with every single thing that I apply myself to. You have to give to get. You know, you only get out of it what you put into it. So that's the mindset that I have to take. I call it the SEAL mindset or the combat mindset.
So what would you tell someone that really hasn't been through training or had someone talking to them about mindset before? I mean, where do you start, right? Because, I mean, there's so much going on in everyone's lives every day, and it's, you know, for someone to really say, all right, I need to give 100% of this all-in mindset. I mean, that's a very difficult thing to do if you aren't trained or used to taking those steps in your life. So where would you tell someone to start?
Well, I would start with, you need to have a good focal point. You know, it's a happy spot. So you need to find something that drives you within. I call it the warrior within. You know, you need to find something that makes you happy. Me, it's my family. And then from there, I just try to branch off. You know, meditation is a great form of trying to learn how to control, you know, your breathing and your thought process. Exercise, you know, I tell people there's no excuse why you can't exercise, whether it's at home, whether it's at work. 10, 15 minutes a day, exercise. You know, I like to educate the mind. I'm big into reading, things like that. You need to just constantly stimulate the mind to keep it going, so that once it's your time to do the output, it actually happens.
And I like what he had said initially, or actually earlier. He had said, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's part of it as well. I think that too many of us get complacent and we start thinking, oh, well, this is great, I'm feeling good, and we don't want to grow, we don't want to expand. Well, growing and expanding doesn't mean that you're going to be comfortable. It's about putting yourself out there. It's about talking to someone that you're not normally accustomed to speaking with. It's about doing things that you're not normally accustomed to doing. And if you don't do those things, then how are you ever going to get out of your zone, per se? And so the desire is part of it, because if you have the desire and you have the drive, then that's going to fuel it. But if you don't, I mean, you can open your eyes and wake up and nothing's going to motivate you. And that's from within.
Anything you want to add, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about, you know, the training intensity of someone who's going to succeed in you know, reaching their physique goals or not. You know, one of the first things that I try to assess if somebody wants my help is, you know, their mindset and the intensity that they train at the gym. Are they connected? You know, is their head in every rep? Are they, you know, like Ray said, that was a good description of a warrior mindset. And you know, it's not so important the exercises that you're doing, but what you're putting into it. And if your mind's totally connected to your body and you're going to that intensity that you need to go to, you know, that's I think all of it. I mean, that's a huge part of it. Huge part of breaking your goals or reaching your goals, breaking plateaus. You know, doing whatever you need. I mean, let's face it, sitting on, you know, doing the stair mill for 30 minutes, it's not fun, man. You gotta have your mind right to do that. And it's huge in reaching your goals. Huge.
I like what Ray had said as well, as far as, I mean, he checks in with himself nightly and daily, if anything, because you've got to reassess where you're at any given point in time. Okay, so what did I do today? How did I perform? What could I have done differently? There's so many things that we as people can do to improve who we are, and yet how many of us actually invest the time in ourselves to do that?
Yeah, one of the things Ray said at the seminar, which, by the way, our seminar was literally spectacular. Jim was supposed to be here.
Charts, dude.
Jim was supposed to be at the seminar, but his plane got canceled, so thankfully we have him on the call right now. But one of the things I really got from Ray's conversation / seminar or lecture was every night before he goes to bed, he writes down 10 things, right? I do. He literally writes down, for 10 years, this has been a habit of his, he writes down 10 things of what he accomplished that day, what he didn't do well, and what he would like to improve on. And I mean, my God, if you just do that kind of stuff, if you have that kind of goal-directed behavior, I mean, the world's your oyster.
Yeah, and my thought process for that is, if the day that I stop doing that is when I'm going to get complacent. And I know Jim probably, you know, training people and stuff, you see people that get complacent. They get comfortable, and I don't want to be comfortable. I want to constantly set my goals and continue to thrive and progress up.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting, Ray, what you said at the very beginning about your SEAL training, and that, you know, 80% of it was mindset, 10 physical, and then the other 10 luck. But it's interesting because, you know, probably most of the guys that were going into your training were all very similar physically in the shape that you were in, right? So the only thing that made you stand out was really that mindset. And I think if you take that and apply it to everything in life, you look at what people do every day, it's very, very average. Most people, they're not applying their mindset, they're not applying goals and putting these habits into place and putting these things that they're doing to be successful.
I agree 100%.
And hey, Scott, one thing that I think that's important for any one of us to remember is that we each tell ourselves a story. And we begin to believe the story. And that story is played over and over and over in our mind. And it can be anything. It can be like, wow, nothing ever comes my way. Wow, why does this always happen to me? Whatever it is. And if you're going to continue to tell and ask yourself those questions and tell yourself the stories, then what else is going to happen for you? It's about creating a life that you desire, that you want to wake up, open your eyes, and be fulfilled and happy and excited about it. Like, this is my life.
I love it. So, Jay, one of the things we were talking about was oh, that's so cute. I love it. Yes.
You would be in the same spot.
I want to hug through the computer. Right? Yeah. So me and Jim were talking about carb cycling kind of earlier, and I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit, Jay, you and Dr. Osborne, but I guess why would someone be doing that? Like, tell me a little bit more about that positioning and why you'd go into a cycle like that and how it can really affect you and help you.
Dr. Osborne's in the back talking to a bunch of people right now, but I can go ahead and answer it.
Okay.
I'm sure Jim.
What me and Jim talked about a little bit earlier, I guess I just wanted to get a little more input from you about that.
Yeah, no. So from a carb cycling standpoint, and again, I'm sure Jim's already shared some awesome information, and all of this again will be transcribed and stuff. But I think a lot of people are really carb phobic. I think the big issue with carbs is that because of all these different books and so-called, Dr. Osborne's with me right now, but we're talking about carb cycling. And, so my issue with it is that too many people are carb phobic. And, we just spent a long time here at the seminar talking about insulin sensitivities and
and the disease of aging and what really happens when people's insulin sensitivities are screwed up because of the horrible diets that they eat or processed foods and the wrong kind of carbohydrates, combining it with fat and whatnot. But carbohydrate cycling, if done right, you can definitely gain muscle and you can also lose fat. You want to add anything about that real quick?
What did Jim say?
I don't know. We didn't hear it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Just go ahead and add.
Yeah, I mean, what was the posed question?
Just the question is how to do carb cycling right.
Right. So carb cycling, it's not for somebody that is inexperienced, Scott. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do is you have to really log your daily carbohydrate intake. And what you're basically doing is on either every 5 day, on a 5 day cycle or a 7 day cycle, whatever you happen to be, however you happen to be doing this, or however your program happens to be structured, you're gradually cutting your carbohydrates out, starting out from a higher level. Just let's say you weigh 150 pounds, okay, and you want to start out with about a gram. I'm just making this up, okay, but it's sort of rough, okay. A gram per pound of body weight of carbohydrates, good carbohydrates a day. What you want to be doing is you want to slowly drop your carbohydrates off. So 150, then the next day you'll go to 100, then the next day you'll go to 50, okay, and then you'll gradually, if it's a 5 day cycle, step it back up again. Like you'll go up by 75. So 125, then you go to 200, and then you'll repeat, okay, down to 150 again, okay, and repeat. That's a 5 day carbohydrate cycle, okay, and what that's going to do is that's going to, it's going to allow you to maintain your insulin sensitivity, one, okay, and it's also going to allow you on the days of your lower carbohydrate intake to shed a bit more body fat. And that's how bodybuilders sort of, I talk about this a lot, that's how they ride the fine line between losing too much muscle, okay, and between maintaining their muscle and losing too much muscle and reducing fat at the same time. So what they're doing is they're oscillating between an anabolic and a catabolic state by virtue of the fact that they are modulating their insulin state. Okay, so again, when you have high carbohydrates in your body, even if they're low glycemic index carbohydrates, you're going to have an insulin signal that's a little bit more robust, okay, than if you have 100 grams of carbohydrates in your body per day, or 50 grams, okay, where obviously you're going to be running around with very, very little insulin, and it's a miserable existence, I will tell you. It's not for the faint-hearted, okay? Then you're going to gradually ramp it back up, okay? So what you're doing is you're going from a relatively high insulin state to a low insulin state, and then back up to a high insulin state. One of the things that, and that allows your body to sort of always be catching up, and it allows your body to maintain a decent degree of insulin sensitivity, and it also allows you to have days that are body fat loss days and days that are more anabolic. So what I would say, okay, in that context is that on the days that you're having high carbohydrate intake, okay, so the 200 gram day, the 150 gram day, what you want to do is you want to stack your strength training, your heavy strength training days on those days. Okay, the 50 gram day, okay, I can assure you don't want to be strength training, because if you do, okay, you're going to be miserable. Okay, so I would structure it so that your endurance workouts are really on the days where your carbohydrates, okay, are at their lowest, okay, and the days where you're at 200 and 150, okay, which really would be, let's just say, Monday and Friday on a 5 day cycle. Those are the days that you're going to be doing your super heavy training, okay? Because if you walk into the gym and you are carbohydrate depleted, you can forget about getting through any type of intense training. It's just not going to happen, okay? So the way the workout is in Get Serious, as an example, okay, it actually happens to just be serendipitously a Monday and Friday. Okay, so you could theoretically use carbohydrate cycling and do this with the protocol as it's delineated in the book. So 200, as an example, if you start out with 150 grams, you'd go 150 on your heavy day, which would be Monday. Tuesday would be 100 grams. That would be an endurance day. 50 would be a strength endurance day. That's going to be a little bit taxing, okay, just because that does require a little bit of rely on intracellular glycogen, okay, with those type 2A muscles fibers that you're using, okay. Then as you start coming back up, okay, you go to your 125. That'll be an endurance day, and then your heavy training would be on the 200 gram day. So it would go 100, 50, 100, 50, 125, 200. Okay, so the week, okay, which is flanked by heavy days, okay, would be the high carbohydrate days, and it may just work out fine. Now, that said, okay, as I've always said, there has to be a lot of experimentation going on. So you need to take a look and see whether or not you're getting the results that you want in terms of fat loss, in terms of muscle gain, okay? Because muscle is your state of anabolism, okay, is directly related to how much insulin there is in the body. Okay, so if you find out that you're not putting on muscle, okay, there are several things that you have to do. You can shorten the cycle when you're, shorten the amount of, in other words, you can modulate the carbohydrate intake accordingly. You may have to, instead of starting at 150 grams, you may start at 175 or 200, okay? And your heavier days with carbohydrates, or your high carbohydrate days, okay, may need to be boosted up a little bit more because you may need more insulin, okay? Or you may find out that you're putting on too much fat. So what are you going to do then? Well, you're going to potentially lower your low carbohydrate day. You may even go down to 25 grams of carbohydrates. So you may have a day where you start out, as an example, on your endurance day, 200, instead of it being, you went from 150 to 100, you may have to go 150 to 75. Then stay at 50 or 75 for the midweek, and then slowly start creeping back up until you get cycled all the way back up to the high carbohydrate day on Friday. Okay, so it takes a lot of experimentation. It is not for the novice. Okay, it really, really is not for the novice. I have to stress that. Okay, everything has to be logged. You have to be diligent. You have to be disciplined. Okay, it's not a technique for the uninitiated. Let's put it that way. I'm sorry for that long-winded answer.
That was awesome. God, we love Scott. Scott, did you want to ask anything about intermittent fasting, or did Jim already handle that?
We didn't really speak to that too much, Jay.
Okay. Scott, go ahead. If you wanted to respond to what he said, do you have any questions on follow-up? Scott, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Did we mute him? Click on the... No. He's not muted. Can't hear you. Can you hear Jim? Jim, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I don't know what's going on. We lost Scott, lost his audio. Typical Google stuff. Scott, are you back? Sucks. Huh. No audio. Can't hear you. Text him. No, down on there. Usually can do it there too. Yeah, there should be a way to like. I don't know how to do it. Oops. Oh, that. Can't hear your volume. Yeah. Well, it's recording. So we can still talk. I know it's recording. Jim, did you want to add anything about intermittent fasting? So here's my take on intermittent fasting. It's become a fad, with the bulletproof diet, with Dave Asprey. Too many people now are loading up fat, this trans whatever margarine or grass-fed butter or whatever it is they're putting in their coffee, and they're pounding it like they're adding like 5, 6, 7, 8 tablespoons because it tastes good, and they think it's going to help their fat loss, right? So it's like, my take is, I think the bulletproof coffee diet is okay, but from a standpoint of like it's this be-all, end-all, great, diet. It depends on how you use it, right? If you're still adding all this butter and all this caloric density to the coffee, you're not restricting your calories at all, right?
Well, one, you're not fasting, so I hope people aren't confusing that with fasting, because obviously you're taking in calories. Two, I was describing to Scott, if you're an athlete or somebody who wants to maintain or build muscle and lose body fat, I would much rather see a high protein, low to complex carb, a little bit of fat meal, rather than, a stick of butter and a cup of coffee for 4 or 5 hours while you're awake. Average American, that doesn't work out. Maybe if you're skipping some meals and it's going to stop you from eating pancakes, I guess for an athlete, I don't think it's wise.
Okay, well, cool. Well, until Scott gets back, because obviously he's got no audio on his end, but this is all recording, so I have some great questions. I'm going to have Dr. Osborne answer this question. The question is, my bioidentical HRT doctor told me that metformin could shut down my kidneys. Is there any evidence this could be a side effect of metformin? I'll let Dr. Osborne answer that.
So that's a good question, and I've heard similar responses in the past in the context of suggesting that individuals could be on metformin. That said, there are very, very scant reports of individuals developing renal problems with metformin usage. However, I will tell you that, like with everything else in medicine, okay, the benefits of metformin far, far, far outweigh the teeny risks of any renal problems, which typically occur in individuals that are floridly dehydrated to begin with, not drinking enough water, okay, which typically is not the profile of the individual that is using metformin for anti-aging purposes, if you will. We'd otherwise have, if these issues did exist, we'd otherwise have a tremendous number of type 2 diabetes, type 2 diabetics going into acute renal failure. Now, they do go into renal failure a lot, okay, we know that, okay, but it's a progressive deterioration in renal function, not the acute deterioration in renal function that is typically associated with these very, very rare side effects of metformin usage. Okay, I use it in many of my patients. Okay, and I've never had a side effect like this from metformin ever. The only side effect that I will hear about, and I've had this happen by virtue of my usage of it, is that it can bother your gut a little bit. So sometimes it'll make you a little bit nauseous. Okay, you can back off the dose. And that's typically what I recommend. I make sure that instead of taking it 15 minutes before food, you take it with food. But as far as the risks, okay, the benefits of metformin to non-diabetic individuals, in my opinion, far outweigh the very, very small risks. Because everybody, let's face it, is going to develop some degree of insulin resistance, and you want to be ahead of the curve always, as with any of these preventative strategies. So my thought would be to push it on as many people as possible if they're receptive to the ideas, at least suggested to them. And if they're not, then they can use other modulators of the insulin IGF-1 pathway, such as resveratrol, which I'm also a big champion of, chromium, cinnamon. These things have similar mechanisms. But as I said in the book, I believe that an analog of metformin or some sort of sirtuin modulator, okay, is going to be the initial anti-aging drug. And as we had said down here in the conference, the folks at Google's newly formed company Calico are likely working on a drug that will modulate the insulin IGF-1 pathway, just like metformin does. So again, risks are far outweigh the benefits. And that's basically how we make medical decisions and surgical decisions. Okay, so it all has to be taken in context. Does that answer your question?
Scott, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So I don't know. Yeah, we're really good. The question actually follow-up. Same guy asked another question. He said, "What about alcohol in moderation with metformin?" What are your comments on that?
So the question was about alcohol in moderation with metformin. There are tons and tons of people who are taking metformin, okay, with and drinking as well. So it's not one of these things, and I get that question often. With regard to people that are on HRT, can I drink? Can I do this, that, and the other? I will have beer occasionally, okay, and some wine occasionally, okay, and my patients do as well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, okay. Metformin usage, okay, with alcohol, just like the vast majority of these drugs with alcohol, okay, is typically not a problem. And that means 75 drinks a night, okay. It just means, if you're going to be the person that has a glass of wine every day from a cardiovascular cardioprotective standpoint, it's just not an issue. Okay, it's really not. I've never ever seen any of my patients ever have a problem with metformin in that regard, ever.
There's so many muscles in the screen. It's so exciting, guys. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
It's a muscle worship.
Hilarious.
Just muscles.
You want to follow up with anything, or do you want me to just rattle off some of these questions?
Yeah, just rattle off some of the questions, man. I think we hit all the questions that we were gonna hit over the hangout. So now just anything in addition.
What is why do you not advocate the use of Smith machine over free weight squats? For what reason do you not advocate the use of Smith machine? Yeah. So I'm sorry. So the question is, it's a good question. It's basically asking. It's for Dr. Osborne. Do you ever advocate the use of the Smith machine over free weight squats for safety reasons? So I'll let him answer.
Right. So I can comment on that because number one, it's my favorite exercise, and number two, as a neurosurgeon, I can tell you that the Smith machine is absolutely awful. It causes individuals to stand more upright than they typically would, and in fact lean back against the bar. You don't want to squat ever, okay, with an erect posture, okay, and I'll say that again. You don't want to squat with an erect posture, okay. When you are down, okay, at the bottom position of a squat, okay, the bar is to be located right over the midfoot. So if you were to drop a plumb line from the bar, okay, down to the ground, it should intersect with the midfoot, okay, or slightly back, okay, from the midfoot, okay. If you are using a Smith machine, okay, which is going to keep you essentially pinned into a frame, it's actually framing your movement. It doesn't really allow the torso to come forward as it naturally would, okay, when you are doing a proper squat, okay. What it actually ends up doing is loading the spine in a vertical, almost like vertical compression, okay, and by virtue of that, increasing the intradiscal pressure tremendously. So the safety, okay, of a squat is generated in the slight forward lean, okay, that is accomplished during the descent. Okay, again, the slight forward lean that is accomplished during the descent. The Smith machine absolutely prohibits one's ability to do that, and then in fact puts a significant amount of compressive forces on the spine, much more than would be than the spine would see, okay, not squatting in an erect posture. Okay, so that's a long-winded answer again. Okay, you don't want to use the Smith machine. You lean back into it, it puts you in bad form. Okay, it will create bad habits. Stay away from it.
All right, Scott, you got any follow-up to that?
No, I don't even know what that machine is.
Yeah, the Smith machine is the machine in the gym. You've seen it. It's like a rack with a squat bar, but it's on a fixed plane, so it's connected, you know, and it slides up and down like the bars. It's a whole.
Got it. Yeah, no, I never use that. Yeah.
It was created in order to quote unquote make these movements a bit safer, but in actuality, it ends up. It absolutely makes it worse. It's just.
So, what would you suggest to someone that was even thinking about using that? Just really low weight when you're doing your squat, like, or just doing the bar if it's that big of an issue to keep your form?
When people come to train at my house and they're novice, okay, they start with nothing, okay, or the bar.
Exactly.
And that's it. Okay, and you know what? It's not about weight. The only reason why I progressively try to increase my weight is because it's a good barometer. That's why heavyweight is one of the numerous reasons why heavyweight is used and slow progressions are made. That's why everything has to be recorded. You need to know where you are if you want to make improvements. So we use the, we oscillate between heavy and light days on a squat or on a deadlift or on an overhead press, whatever it is, okay? One day is sort of a test of your mettle, okay, day, and the lighter day, okay, that's the heavy day, and then the lighter day is really the day where you're trying to hypertrophy those muscles, grow those muscles, get that strength up, okay, because in a week from that workout, you're going to be tested again. Okay, so it's all about intervening and testing and safety, intervening, testing, and safety. So I don't really care where one starts. They can start from the bar, okay, and they can work their way up, okay, and they go 5 pounds a week, okay, 5 pounds a week, because 5 pounds a week, or every 2 weeks, I should say, 5 pounds every 2 weeks, okay, is going to be 100 plus pounds, okay, in a year. And then the next thing you know, you're going to be squatting, okay, 300 pounds. Now, obviously, if somebody's having an easy time, okay, with squatting the bar, and it was just a technical issue, okay, you're not going to keep them down with the bar, okay. You're going to make an assessment, okay, the individual that's training, is going to make, or the person that's training that individual is going to make some sort of assessment as to where this individual should or should not be, so you can advance fairly quickly. For example, one of the guys that I train with is a completely novice lifter. Okay, he's 18 years old. He's got big legs. Okay, sort of a big posterior chain, big butt, a good squatter, deadlifter. Okay, naturally. By virtue of his body habitus, okay, except that he's tall, and that's one of his issues, but he's working around it. He started out, it's got to be probably 5 months ago, okay? He couldn't squat down without the bar, without throwing up, and he was really throwing up. I made him squat down about 10 times in a row, and he went and threw up, and then we did this a couple of times, okay? And I'm not saying you need to go, do this until you throw up. What I'm telling you is that he had zero strength, and he was just intolerant of the intensity, okay? Last week, okay, and this is 5 months, okay, he squatted, I think his work rate was 235. It was either 235 or 240 for 5. Okay, so you make, you make nice gains initially, okay, for about 6 to 12 months. So you don't have to sort of sit there with the bar if you can demonstrate proper technique and are clearly moving the weight. But if it's an issue where you have a novice squatter, and they don't even know how to squat with the bar, okay, they absolutely should start with nothing or the bar, okay, make sure they have somebody that's experienced training them, and then they can make some jumps as long as they're maintaining their safety. But the goal, okay, the goal of this is to complete those 5x5s, okay, as in the book's protocol. You want to get that 5x, so you really shouldn't jump up to a weight. If you can't squat very, very well, you don't want to jump up and put 225 in the bar and then get 5 sets of singles. That's not going to do anything for you at all. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this just goes back to like so many different lifts, and it's all about the form and technique, not necessarily the weight, right?
I could care less about the weight. The only thing I care about is that you are 100% effort. Okay. You're making progress. Okay, and that your head's in the game. As a matter of fact, we have a big sign in my garage that says "Head in the game." Okay. Under the weights, under the goals for everybody. In the different lifts. Okay, so that's all I care. I care that there's effort being made and there's progress, okay, being made, because if your mind is in it, okay, we're really training the mind here. We're not training the body. Okay, people think, oh, you're just training the muscles. No, you're not. You're really just training your mind. So if you can wrap your mind around these things, okay, you can do big things and you can make progress. Not on every workout, okay, when you're an advanced lifter, but you know what? You can make progress. Every couple of weeks, you're going to click that squat up. 2.5 pounds, 5 pounds. Okay, which is another reason why, if you are an advanced lifter and you happen to be listening to this, you may or may not know this. I would recommend getting the 1.25 pound plates. Okay, right. Because you want to just go up incrementally slow, avoid injury. Okay, and stick to that proper technique.
So actually, the perfect segue, Scott, real quick. I have another question. It's for Ray, and it kind of segues into training. And the question is they've seen like all these different Navy SEAL, like, I wouldn't call them fads, but there's all kinds of stuff out there now where people are like, teaching SEAL concepts. And I want Ray to like answer the question of, what kind of training, actual like physical weight training, not the stuff they do, on the beach and all that kind of stuff, but the kind of actual training that they do in SEALs as compared to like an average everyday weightlifting program.
That's actually a really good question. Before we start to answer that thing, the basis of it is form. We do what's called tactical fitness training, where we use explosive movements. When you go through BUDS, we're looking for longevity, and we're looking for, we have the 1,000 push-up workouts a day and the 8-count bodybuilders and the long runs. But as you progress and you go to your SEAL team, the mission changes. You're going to be over in Afghanistan humping weight, 180 pounds on your back. You're going to be doing things where you need to increase your core. That's where deadlifts come in, and we need to use explosive power. So what Doc Osborne says, he hit it right on the head when it's form. The first thing we do is we get in the right mindset that one of great is better than 10 of crap. I'm going to say it right there. And then what happens from there is we use explosive movements, pull-ups. We use push-ups, but we'll do weighted. We just get a little more advanced with it. We incorporate some Olympic moves. Squats are huge. Bench press is huge, but in the SEAL teams, the focus is we don't want to get so big that it limits our mobility. We want to have that full range of motion, which is key. So you know, a lot of these fads that they get on, you have to find that happy balance of using some Olympic lifts, you know, incorporating a little bit of CrossFit. I like to call it tactical fitness, and also working on the stamina endurance. You know, I work on cycles of, I'll do a certain amount of time of, you know, long cardio, then I'll do sprint type oriented workouts where, you know, I'm getting the heart rate up. I'll go to light movements, and then I switch it to heavy movements, like in Doc Osborne's book, The 5 for 5s. Because what you want to be is you want to be the well-rounded warrior. You know, you want to be the complete package. I don't think there's one specific technique out there that's going to make somebody that. I think what you have to do is you have to pull from each one, and then you have to incorporate what works best for you. Does that about sum it up?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too, Ray, that all this stuff is nice and dandy, but if you don't have your mindset right, you're not going to be able to give 100% and get out of what you want to, how you want to look and how you want to feel and your, you know, right? So all goes back to starting there, right?
You know, like I said, remember the foundation of the house. You've got to have a solid foundation. That's the mind. You know, I have a saying. I say, figure it out. Don't make it an excuse. Make it a solution. So that means when there's a will, there's a way. You have to have that mindset that I'm going to figure it out and do whatever it takes to better myself mentally, physically, you know, and you apply it in everyday life. I do it from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, with nutrition, with my family. Mindset is the key to success. I'm going to say that one more time. Mindset is the key to success.
Absolutely true in every phase of life. Jim, did you want to add something about mobility, going back to the squat? Maybe you could add some stuff in there for people that, you know, are watching this and are saying, well, you know, I'm old, I can't squat anymore, or anything like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a long discussion, but yeah, you can have somebody evaluate your squat. I mean, an easy way to do that is have somebody look at you or watch you do a box squat and kind of evaluate where you are. If you're a fan of Kelly Starrett like I am, you can get on his website and spend hours upon hours watching him do seminars and techniques where he's evaluating a squat and then going after the certain points of whatever fail that person has or whatever fault is in the squat and addressing it and trying to fix it. And so if you're a person that says, I'm too old to squat or my knee hurts, with the amount of information that's available today on the internet, there's Donnie Thompson does a series on YouTube. Kelly Starrett, again, there's guys out there that can get you past it, and you don't have to fly in to, you know, see these guys specifically. It's really it's kind of a whole new information as far as at least that I'm aware of when it comes to mobility and being able to have a coaching type of self-rehab, self-evaluation to utilize.
Yeah, one thing, Scott, that we stressed here, and unfortunately Jim wasn't able to give his little lecture to everybody here, but one of the things that Dr. Osborne and I, and of course Ray and the sales stuff, stress is that the most important thing is to avoid injury. Okay, you can fight through anything. Like pain is really just a mental perception. I mean, you know, you can push through that. I mean, you know, that's obviously the forging of the SEAL mindset is you can achieve anything. Like he said, that, you know, don't make excuses, just do it. There's no such thing as excuses. But if you have an injury and you can't actually, your mobility or your range of motion is limited or absolutely gone, then that's a whole different story. So in order to really progress from a weight training perspective, regardless of your level, you know, whether you're a newbie or you're advanced, you have to always go slowly and methodical so that you avoid injury. And obviously that comes down to correct technique, proper form. And as you're doing these core lifts, you know, the overhead press, the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, all these things, you know, and Dr. Osborne's a stickler on this. You have to warm up, okay? This is not something where you jump in and start, you know, ballistically lifting without warming up. And that's even for a guy who's, you know, a guy who bench presses 400 pounds. I mean, you know, Ray can tell you that, you know, a guy that bench presses 400 pounds, because he can do that, is still going to start off with the bar. He's going to warm up with the bar. He's going to progress to probably 115, 135, 200, whatever, until your muscles are sufficiently warmed, until neurologically your body's ready to fire so that you don't get injured. Because if you get injured, guess what? You can't train. And if you can't train, you can't maintain a healthy, lean physique or build muscle or have any of those great, things that allow you to avoid injury and sickness as you age. I know it's
Awesome.
getting late. It's getting late back there. If you want to wrap this up, Scott, we really appreciate.
Yeah,
you.
well, a few quick things, real quick. I mean, give us a couple call to actions, Jay. I mean, if people want to learn more about Ray, I mean, where should they go, Ray?
Go ahead, Ray.
If anybody wants to check out me, I have a public Facebook page. It's Ray Kashkar, former Navy SEAL, and I'm also the lead instructor, which is my passion, training people through SEAL training for ExtremeSEALExperience.com. It's over in Virginia Beach, and literally all it is, it's about a week-long team building and mindset training course that I lead and put people through. And I do it everywhere from, your average guy, all the way up to collegiate athletes. I train the UCLA Bruins. I do some work with Anthony Barr for the Minnesota Vikings, Cassius Marsh for the Seahawks, to corporate events, Fortune 500 CEOs, because the one commonality that I like seeing in this training is everybody wants to be better. And in order to do that, we have to strengthen the mind, And then after that, that's when we bring in the subject matter experts like Doc, Jay, and you bring in Jim, and and they do their thing. We mesh it all together, and that's what gives you, like I said, the complete package.
So Scott, this was the first ever seminar. We don't really even have a name for it. We called it the Get Serious Seminar on anti-aging, rejuvenation, health, fitness, hormone optimization. I mean, this seminar was amazing, right? I mean, it was so power-packed. There was so much information. We had over 30 people here with no external marketing. I didn't even blog about it. It's kind of like insider only for this first round. But eventually, we're going to make this into a very, very big and very glorified. You're going to be involved in marketing this. And we're going to really push this out there. But, there'll be more information about it at FabFitOver40.com coming up. But yeah, I'm actually doing a blog on Ray. It's going to be out probably in the next week or so. I was trying to get it out tomorrow, but there's so much going on here and there's so many people, I'm not going to be able to edit it like I wanted to. But I'll have a blog on him sometime next week so people can find out more about him. But I mean, everybody already knows Dr. Osborne and Dr. Farber. Dr. Farber couldn't join us tonight because his daughter is competing in the figure skating Olympics for her age group in Lake Placid, New York. She's an amazing figure skater. So props to him for going out to Lake Placid and being with her. And then, once again, Jim, thank you. Thanks to Jim Brown for showing up on the show tonight and fielding questions and talking to you, Scott, while we couldn't be there. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks.
guys. It was absolutely
Thanks, guys.
These guys are phenomenal.
All right, well, we'll see everybody in a couple of weeks. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks a lot, brother. We appreciate it. See ya.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.